Okay, well, welcome. I'm Holly. I'm one of the customer success managers here at Kelvin. And thanks for joining us today for our learning lab, part of our summer series that we're doing for the month of June. And I'll be taking us through creating a student pulse. So, what our learning objectives are for today is to help you create a student pulse, looking at using the Kelvin Bank and your own custom questions. And then we're going to show you how you can get to preview your polls and hopefully some other tips along the way. I'm also going to save some time for Q&A at the end. So if you have any burning questions or specific things about creating a pulse that have come up as you've been learning how to create your own, we'd be happy to address that at the end today. So we're hoping to keep this as a kind of a more bite-sized learning lab within 30 minutes. So we're going to try to keep it short and pithy, and then hopefully it'll still be jam-packed with information that you'll find helpful and you can take home with you. So let's get started. So with creating a student pulse, if you haven't been in the system yet, then it's just 3 simple steps, which is the info page, the questions page, and the schedule page. And from here, we're going to jump into our demo site so that we can build one together and talk through some of the tips and helpful things that you might notice along the way as you're building your own student pulse. So I'm going to jump into our demo. And if you're not seeing my demo on your screen, just go ahead and pop something in the chat there. Otherwise, I'll assume that all is well and we'll keep moving. All right, so keep in mind that when you are creating a pulse, being able to create a pulse is actually permissions based, and everything in our pulse system is role based as well. So right now I am signed in as a school staff user. And so that means I would only see students I would only see student participants for one specific school that I'm assigned to. If you're a district admin or system admin, you'll be able to access each of the schools within your district and students at each of those schools as well. So everything, again, is permissions based and role based. And then you'll notice we're in our Launchpad, and I see this create a pulse card that lives right here. And that actually defaults to creating a student pulse. You can also get to the pulse creation from this pulse list page at the top, and that will give you other options to create a staff, a family, or a student pulse. If I weren't seeing this create a pulse card, that would mean that my system admin has not given me access or permissions to be able to create one. So if you don't see that, then you'll want to reach out to your system admin to get that permission. But let's jump in and start building a pulse. So I mentioned that this takes us to a student pulse. So you'll see that here at the top of the page. It lets me know what kind of a pulse I'm building. And you'll notice we also have the 3 steps to create our pulse. So first step is, what do you want to call this pulse? Now, I realize it is June 5th and we're at the end of the school year. So I want to do an end of year feedback pulse. And then in this who do you want to ask field, this is where I can select my students. So this is, if you're a system admin, you're going to notice this looks different than what you might see. So I have schools already pre-selected for me. I mentioned I'm in as a school staff. So I am in as the school principal at Yoshi Middle. So I cannot change the school, but I do still have options to select specific grades within that school, any classes that might be populating coming in for my SIS, or if I had custom groups that I had imported over or created, I can select those as well. But I just want to ask the entire school for this end of the year feedback pulse. So I'm going to save just Yoshi Middle, and that means all students at Yoshi Middle will be included. This next field, who do you want to share results with? We really want to keep it at not too few people seeing it, but also not too many. So I might not want to share this with district admins because it's really just school-based right now. So my teachers I may include. You'll notice I only have one here. That's because we're in our demo site, but I could add other school staff at my site. So maybe I could just type in school staff. There we go. And maybe I want my school counselors to be included as well. So I can include that custom group. And then keep in mind that whoever you share those results with, they'll be able to monitor participation while your pulse is live. and then they'll be able to see those results once the Pulse closes out. So that will show up on their results on their Launchpad or in the Pulse list page. So for advanced settings, I can either turn comments on or off, and also this allow students to request to speak to an adult. Now, the comments, if I have that toggled on, it will turn on comments for every single question in the Pulse. But I don't think I want to do that today. I will probably give myself an open-ended question in there to get qualitative feedback. But if you're doing a full survey or Pulse where you're mostly doing Likert questions and you also want that qualitative data to build onto how students are responding, this is a good option to turn on. Just know that you'll probably get a lot of data, a lot of comments to read through, which can be overwhelming. And then this allows students to request to speak to an adult as a special option that will pop up with Boogie when their Pulse pops up. So if they've answered unfavorably for at least 50% of the questions, they'll get this special prompt to ask them if they'd like to speak to an adult. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Even though we're at the end of the school year, I want to give students a chance to answer or ask for that. So I'm going to go ahead and click next, and that will save my progress for this portion, this first step. And now for my next step, step 2 of 3, we're going to insert our questions or create our questions. So we are not prescriptive over at Kelvin. We're not going to tell you what you have to do, what's the best thing to do, because we handle the tech portion. We have suggestions. We have hundreds of questions in the question bank that have been pre-validated, but we see you as the content experts, and you know your schools best. So we trust that you'll know what to ask. But if you're ever stuck, you can come over here into this question bank and pull from those pre-validated questions from the Department of Ed, New Schools Venture Fund, and the core question bank. But I do have a couple questions in mind that I'm thinking of since this is an end of the year check-in. I'm going to start by adding the custom question, clicking this plus button here. And I am going to ask, let's see, what is one highlight of your school year? And I will work on my spelling here. So luckily it lets me know where I've made some mistakes. And I actually want this to be an open-ended question. So you'll see the drop down on the right, and you can change the type of question that you ask. So I'm changing that to open-ended. You notice it gets rid of those Likert response options. And I also want to create a dimension. And what the dimension does is it will roll up any questions that you put within that dimension. It'll group them together for reporting. So it makes it nice and kind of tabulates them together for you. So I'm just going to put, I'm going to just call it open-ended, because any open-ended questions I might end up putting together. So I'll save that for now. I also want to see, let's see, I want to ask a question from the bank and see what we have that has to do with participation. So I can either search by the keyword participation, or I can click this drop down and see the pre-loaded banks of questions. So you'll notice this gives me the source, core, and then those dimensions or groupings of questions. So I could look at climate of support for academic learning. I can look at other questions. As I scroll through, I might see different groupings. So I actually can see U.S. Department of Ed school participation has some questions. And I want to ask this one. I regularly attend school-sponsored events, such as school dances, sporting events, student performances, or other school activities. I'm going to go ahead and click add. So you'll notice once I add it, it leaves this list here and then populates in my question list there. So I click the X just to come back. And since this is end of year, I want to edit this question and change it to from I regularly attend to I regularly attended school-sponsored events, because I want to find out if my students really did come to those events that we had planned. I'll notice that I have the Likert response options here from strongly disagree to strongly agree. We have emojis turned on. If I don't want to keep those, I can just click on the emojis and select none for all of those, but I think I'm going to leave them for now. If I wanted to add another option, I could, but I think I want to keep it on a 4-point scale for now. You'll notice that it pulled in that dimension that was already there. And then I want to add one more custom question. So I'm going to click on the plus and it will add my question after this one. And I want to ask about activities that we'll provide for next school year. So let's do this. I'm going to create a checkbox type question. Here, I'm going to paste in my question of, so I put in of the following activities that the school is thinking about providing for the next school year, which are you interested in participating in? So I put on here, they can check all that apply, and then I can change that to check boxes. And you'll notice my emojis went away. I don't have a favorable response, so it's not going to calculate favorability for this question, which is fine because I really just want to get a count or a percentage of what students are interested in. And I'm just going to add a few options in these boxes below. So maybe a yoga fitness class or club. Let's add a weight training. We can add dance club, theater. Let's see, one more coding club. And let's say I have a few more options that I want to add. Robotics. Esports. And I think that's plenty of options. So I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm also going to name this, let's see. We'll call this activities. And I'm going to name or give it a description. Activities that students would like for the next school year. And then I can save that. Okay, so I'm going to keep my polls really short. And just as a best practice, we recommend that you keep it pretty brief, anywhere between 4 to 10 questions. We have noticed after crunching the numbers across all of our customers that after 10 questions, we start to see a pretty big drop off and decline in participation. So really the idea behind Pulse is that it's something quick and easy that meets the students where they're at, that they can quickly answer some questions, request to speak to an adult if that option is available to them, and then get back to working on what they're doing while they're signed into Chrome. So from here, when I click next, it's going to save what I just submitted in my questions form. And then the last and final step is the step 3 of 3 to schedule your Pulse. And I'm going to go ahead and set it to start tomorrow because I want this to go out before the school year ends. Our default is to have it open for 7 days, and we recommend that because it gives students about a week to respond if they're absent one day or they're not able to sign in to Chrome another day of the week, that they have multiple opportunities to do that. But you could set it for as short or as long as you'd like. And then we also have the window here. And what this window is when the dog will pop up for students. So if I only wanted it to pop up during maybe their morning advisory hour, I could set that from, let's just say 8 to 9:30. I'll just set it to 10 just to give a little extra overlap there. And then now the dog will only pop up for those 2 hours of the day. They can always come up and click that K if for some reason you need to have them get to it after those hours, and then the dog will pop up for them and give them their Pulse. So I could set this to repeat. Since it's end of the school year, I might not want to do that, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll go ahead and show what it looks like to create a repeating schedule. We would just click custom in the dropdown, and maybe I want to just set this for every 1 month until maybe the end of August before the school year starts up. Maybe I'll have some summer school students who want to answer these questions before the school year starts, and it'll help me plan. And then once I click create schedule, you'll see it will generate each of those Pulse windows that will open up. So I have my first window starting tomorrow, June 6th. Then I have it starting July 6th and then August 6th. So I actually don't want to do it starting July 6th because that's right during Independence Day. Maybe I don't have summer school that week, so I can set it for the following week instead, and I'll just do that. I'll set it for each weekday. And now I've edited my window. I can add dates if I need to, or I can change the frequency, so I could go back in and edit things, but I'm happy with that. So I am just going to finish my setup, and now it's enabled my pulse. It's good to go, and it's going to run for those 3 months that I've set it to run. From here, you can go in and click this change link to edit those questions, but you can always come back later before it starts. We don't recommend changing your questions once that pulse window is open. So if I don't change this before tomorrow, I could really mess up my results if I go in and change it while it's live and students are responding to it. So I don't want to do that. I can also click here to edit settings, but I want to show you where you would go to preview your pulse once you've created it. So a lot of times folks will log in, maybe it's been a week since you've created your pulse, and you log into your Launchpad and you're looking and all you're seeing are these cards and maybe this results from a previous survey, but you want to get into the one that you were working on. So once you're here, you want to go to your pulse list page by clicking pulses at the top. There we are. And from here, I can find my end of year feedback that I just created. And I'm actually going to click this ... on the right-hand side, because if I click on the title, it's going to take me to edit it, but I don't want to edit. I just want to see my participants. So I click View Participants from the dropdown, and now I can click on any of my participants from my school. So let's click on Jessica, and now you'll see a preview link. So if I click that, I can actually see what Jessica would see. You'll see it knows her name. I'll click the arrow. I can go in and respond as though I'm her. I can answer, and then I can check all these boxes, and then we're done. And I don't need to submit because we're just a preview, but that's how you can come in and see how it would actually look for the student, is to go to that participant page. So I'm going to go back here and just remind us that we go back to the pulse list page, we find our pulse that we just created, click that ... and you'll click the View Participants link. It'll take you to your participation, and you can click the preview link. So we're going to just jump right back to our presentation here. And I wanted to leave you with some resources before we go, and also leave us about 10-ish minutes to answer any questions that you might have. But we have some links to videos and help articles to help you with pulse creation and administration. So I will send you this link through the chat in just a moment here. Couple of things I wanted to note. This video is a little bit longer. It's a pulse creation learning module. So it can be especially helpful for system admin users who have full permissions. It'll also take you through where to go for opting out students if you end up seeing you've got students on your list that shouldn't be there. We take you through the steps of how to do that. And then we also have a help article for managing pulses. So if you needed to go back and change anything in your pulse, edit some dates, you can do that. It'll take you through how to update your pulse. And then for pulse administration, once your pulse is live, there are some tips that we think come in handy once you're in the midst and in the thick of doing your pulse with students. So this video is about 2 minutes. It shows you 3 ways for students to access their pulse. So if you didn't want the dog to pop up, you want to minimize that window and just have them click the K, that video shows you how to do that, or how to send them directly to the link. And then we have an article that shows you how to change your pulse dates, and then monitoring your pulse participation and finding those unique links in case for some reason a student's just not seeing the dog pop up or they're having trouble getting to the pulse. We do have a way for you to get their unique link and to get it to them to take their pulse. We also have the help center here. That's help help.kelvin.education. So that's linked in that PDF that I sent you as well, which has all of our help topics. And then you can always submit a ticket to our team. So if it's something that you need an answer right away, you want to submit it into our help desk, and then one of our team will get to it and help you out with that. So the beauty about the Pulse is that it is pretty user-friendly and straightforward. Just a couple of things we like to share during this presentation is, keeping them short and sweet so that students aren't overburdened with too many questions and they don't get that survey fatigue. And then just knowing that you have the customizability so you can edit questions from the bank to your liking or create your own.